So he's talking about how there is something compelling in the notion that we owe things to other people, right? He says, after all, we do owe everything we are to others. This is simply true. The language we speak and even think in, our habits and opinions, the kind of food we like to eat, the knowledge that makes our lights switch on and the toilets flush, even the style in which we carry out our gestures of defiance and rebellion against social conventions, all of this we learned from other people, most of them long dead. If we were to imagine what we owe them as a debt, it could only be infinite. The question is, does it really make sense to think of this as a debt? After all, a debt is by definition something we could at least imagine paying back. It is strange enough to wish to be square with one's parents. It rather implies that one does not wish to think of them as parents anymore. Would we really want to be square with all humanity? What would that even mean? So he goes on, but it gets interesting in the pages that follow until, on page 67, he kind of posits what it would mean to repay these things that seem not to be repayable, right? So he talks about you could repay through ritual, basically the universe, right? You could repay those that created all this knowledge for us by becoming learned ourselves and contributing to human knowledge and human culture ourselves. To our parents, we repay them by becoming ancestors, right? And to humanity as a whole, we repay them by generosity to strangers, by maintaining that basic communistic ground of sociality that makes human relations and life possible. So yeah, I thought you might think that I was a little woo-woo, but for me, there's something cool about it, because it's like, if these types of indebtedness that we have to each other aren't quantifiable, then what do we do about it? What does it mean and I think that's largely correct, that what is truly ours, right? Versus what have we inherited, not just literally from our parents, whether in terms of genetics or wealth or whatever, but what have we inherited from the world we're in, good and bad, from our culture, our society? What is really ours and what is like bound up with what others have done? That I think is an interesting thing to think about. And then what does that mean for what we do in response? I think these questions at least are very important.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really disagree with what he's saying there in broad strokes.
Yeah.
He's talking about, the number of moral obligations that you have incurred simply by virtue of existing on this planet, in this society, this country where you live, and there's every one of them unpayable. It's like, my parents labored to bring me into existence. How can I repay that?
Mostly your mother, probably, I would say.
Yeah, right. But
initially,
initially, and then then there's the 18 years
That's
of
right.
clothing and feeding and paying for some, helping me with college and stuff like that.
Did they buy you your first drum set? Did you get your first?
I believe I bought my I saved up and bought that myself.
Okay.
At any rate, yeah. So it's like the fact, thinking about moral obligation as in this sort of like debt ledger, you quickly reach the conclusion that we are all inextricably bound up together, and there's no way we could ever pay off anything or precisely net out who is owed what in any sort of like moral sense.
Right.
And we need a different moral theory for how to arrange our institutions such that, like money and resources and status and so forth go to, and I would say, because I'm an egalitarian, or maybe a follower of Jesus Christ, you might say.
Amen, brother.
Everyone should get it. All people should share as equally as possible in this.
Yeah.
The bounteous harvest we have created for ourselves, and that has been bequeathed by history to us. And I think that's a beautiful way of thinking about it.